major report out, major headlines. The First Lady, former First Lady, hopefully future First Lady, Melania Trump, has a memoir coming out. And in this memoir, reportedly, she endorses abortion. And she passionately defends abortion, actually. This is from an exclusive excerpt given to The Guardian. Headline: Melania Trump passionately defends abortion rights in upcoming memoir. Exclusive. I've carried this belief with me throughout my entire adult life. What does she write? I obviously don't have a copy of the memoir. Apparently the memoir is not too long, so the presence of this passionate defense of abortion is all the more conspicuous because it's relatively short. She writes, according to The Guardian, it is imperative to guarantee that women have autonomy in deciding their preference of having children based on their own convictions, free from any intervention or pressure from the government. Why should anyone other than the woman herself have the power to determine what she does to her own body? A woman's fundamental right of individual liberty to her own life grants her the authority to terminate her pregnancy if she wishes. Restricting a woman's right to choose whether to terminate an unwanted pregnancy is the same as denying her control over her own body. I have carried this belief with me throughout my entire adult life. That's going to be really shocking to a lot of, certainly to pro-lifers and probably to many conservatives. So there are a few explanations as to how this is. You might say it's because Melania comes from Slovenia. Slovenia has extraordinarily lax abortion laws. Permits abortion up to 28 weeks. Abortion is free. It's paid, but not free. Nothing's really free in this finite world, but it's paid for by the government. And minors don't even need parental permission to obtain an abortion. So, she comes from a place that has very lax abortion laws. Now, Melania is also Catholic, and Catholicism has made clear that abortion is completely unacceptable, and it's not just one sin among many, but it's special. It's non-negotiable. That the right to life is the right from which all the other rights flow. So you might say, okay, I don't know, maybe that explains it. You might say, some people will be tempted to say that this is strategic, that no matter how deeply pro-lifers feel about abortion, no matter how philosophically and bioethically clear the issue of abortion is, and it is, politically, it's a tough issue for Republicans, and when it's gone up in ballot initiatives in recent years, we've lost. So we got this major win during the Trump years of the overruling of Roe v. Wade. But since then, we got a major win from the Trump justices during for the overruling of Roe v. Wade. But since then, it's become a tough political issue. So maybe this is 5D chess. And the First Lady is releasing her memoir just before the campaign in order to blunt the attacks from Democrats that Trump is going to ban abortion nationwide. Maybe that's possible. I have a third theory, which I have not yet seen anyone mention. Go to preborn.com/Knowles. Every year, over 800,000 innocent lives are lost to abortion in America. By the way, that's an outdated number. That was a number about 2 years ago. Today, because of the advent of the abortion pill, it's over 1 million. Over 1 million babies a year. This is a tragedy that should weigh heavily on every American's conscience. But instead of addressing this crisis, the Biden-Harris administration is actively working against those trying to protect the unborn. They are threatening up to 10 years in jail for people defending the defenseless. And as if that weren't chilling enough, we're now seeing Democrat leaders like VP nominee Tim Walz support infanticide, killing the baby after the baby is born. This is the America we're living in, folks, but in the face of moral crisis, there's hope. Here is how $28 can make a real measurable difference for life. Preborn, an organization fighting on the front lines of the pro-life movement to protect and support mothers facing unplanned pregnancies, uses $28 to provide a life-saving ultrasound to a mother considering abortion. When a mother sees her baby through an ultrasound, the chances of her choosing life double. Preborn can't do it without our help. Right now, go to preborn.com/Knowles for $28, less than the cost of a night out. These days, less than the cost of a cup of coffee, depending on where you go. You could potentially save a life. Your tax-deductible donation goes directly for defending the most vulnerable among us. That is preborn.com/Knowles. You can also dial pound 250, say keyword baby. Support Preborn today. This is an organization that I support personally. You should support it too. Preborn.com/Knowles. I think this is totally to be expected because since abortion became a major public issue, every single Republican first lady has supported it. This is a sad, strange fact of history. But don't forget, before the 1960s, abortion was not really a major public issue. Going back to the colonial days, when abortion was addressed by law, it was illegal. At the time, of course, abortion was surgically impossible and chemically dubious. But where it was addressed, it was illegal. By the turn of the 20th century, it was a felony in every single state. Then Margaret Sanger began her campaign for abortion and contraception and eugenics. And that her organization turned into Planned Parenthood. And it got these wins here and there. It started to decriminalize abortion in certain places. But really, that all exploded in the late 1960s, and then finally it was codified. There was a license to abortion with Roe v. Wade in 1973. So it's really the late 60s or so, and we had Republican president Dwight Eisenhower. VP was Richard Nixon. Then we had Democrat rule because Kennedy, rightly or wrongly, won the 1960 election. Then we had LBJ, and then we get a Republican again, Richard Nixon. That's really the first time that abortion is a major public issue while a Republican's in the White House. And Richard Nixon's wife was pro-abortion. And then there was a soft coup in our government, and Richard Nixon was thrown out of the government. Jerry Ford was put in his place. Betty Ford supported abortion. Then you say, okay, well, Richard Nixon, he was a different kind of conservative. And Jerry Ford, he wasn't really all that conservative at all. But we finally got Ronald Reagan, right? The Gipper, the conservative standard bearer. We got a religious revival even coming on the right. This is great. Surely here, the first family is going to be totally pro-life, right? No, Nancy Reagan supported legal abortion. And in fact, I think it was Don Regan's book, his political memoir, he recalled her saying that she didn't give a damn about the pro-lifers. She might have even used tougher language than that. Regardless, she defended abortion. Then you get George H.W. Bush. Barbara Bush, pro-abortion. In fact, the Bush family broadly was pro-abortion. George H.W. Bush's father, Prescott Bush, Senator Bush, I think he was a donor to Planned Parenthood. He was a big supporter of Planned Parenthood. George H.W. Bush became pro-life just before he got on the 1980 ticket with Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan demanded he be pro-life. But the Bushes generally were not particularly pro-life. Now, George W. Bush was more conservative in most ways than George H.W. Bush. However, George W. Bush's wife, Laura, was pro-abortion. Then Melania Trump, no surprise. It's weird because pro-life is strongly represented on the right, but not necessarily in the political class, not necessarily in the elected political class, I should say. And this is what's an important lesson for pro-lifers in all of this. Melania Trump writes a memoir and says, I'm pro-abortion. Does that mean you're not going to vote for Trump? I don't know. She's the first lady. She's not the president. Trump's been a pro-life president. Been the most pro-life president in practical terms in my lifetime. But did Laura Bush being pro-abortion stop you from voting for George W. Bush? Did Barbara Bush? Did Nancy Reagan? No. I think you're probably still going to vote for Trump, even if you're a pro-lifer. This is a reminder, though, that pro-lifers are true, thoroughgoing pro-lifers are a distinct minority, not just in the country, even in the political class of the GOP. The pro-lifers, we punch above our weight because we are well represented in the intellectual side of the conservative movement and in the activist side of the conservative movement. And there's overlap between the intellectual side and the activist side too, obviously. But there are conservatives who have a thoroughgoing, relatively coherent political view. That is not represented in the elected class. And in part, I suspect that is because that's not represented among the electorate. Which means, some people said the pro-life movement's over after Roe v. Wade. I think, no, things are just getting started. Now we've got to really start making arguments. Now we've really got to start pulling on heartstrings. Now we've got to really start showing people reality. Now we really have to start persuading people. That was a good clip. Now hold up, ring the bell, subscribe. Hey. Subscribe to the Michael Knowles YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time.